Hey, Armand here with your forecast for the week of June 30th, 2025, which you'll recognize is really the forecast for the first week in July. Here we at we are about to pass the halfway mark of 2025. The New York Times, I wouldn't have thought about it in these terms, but the New York Times points out that on July 2nd, that's Wednesday, we cross the midline of the calendar year. Astrologically, we're a quarter in at the solstice. But of course, the timing of the sun and stuff like that, we would tend to think about it as sort of passing the midway point, maybe at the solstice in June. But the year is important too. And here we are at the halfway point of 2025. That's a surprise. My forecast is a little late for those of you who watch on the weekend prior. That would be the 28th and the 29th. My forecast a little late this week. When you go to a restaurant and they at the bottom of the menu, there's that little asterisk that tells you that eating raw seafood could be a problem. Well, that turns out to be a thing. Quite a thing. And that was Monday. Anyways, but I digress. Let's talk about this week. Well, we can be a little bit slow about things. We're waxing out of the new moon towards the first quarter moon that happens on Wednesday. So we're sort of in that active phase, right? And we begin the week on Monday with the moon in Virgo. Really, I'll tell you that I'll front load you with the story over here. The action happens like Friday. Don't let any astrologer tell you otherwise, that things build up. So it's really more like Wednesday into Thursday into Friday, and then trailing off down towards Sunday type of thing. That's the way things really go. But Friday's kind of the big day. And well, we start the week with the moon in Virgo, the waxing moon in Virgo, Monday through later on Tuesday. Very good time for taking care of routine tasks. It's really kind of it's kind of a nice everyday sort of vibe. I mean, I can't really talk about the collective or anything like that. Who knows with that business? But if to the extent you can sort of just get through your daily life, it's a pretty good week to do things. Many in the U.S. are going to have a shortened work week, and that's nice. And maybe even some looking forward to some sort of festivities on the weekend, which would be nice as well. But generally speaking, wherever you are, this starts off as a good week. It's just a good week to take care of regular stuff there with the moon in Virgo. The moon goes into, but you know what the thing is? It's a really good time to take care of stuff because Mercury is entering the shadow of his retrograde. He retrogrades from July 18th to August 11th. It means he's really spending the entire summer in the sign of Leo. Right, he gets into Leo, and then he's gotten into the shadow of his retrograde already on July 4th, and he'll be there till the end of August. So he's sort of summering in Leo, where we have to say that communication tends to be creative and dramatic, and sometimes just a drop self-centered. It's just the general vibe that is around for communication in every mercurial aspect that happens, right? For example, on the weekend of the 28th and 29th of June, Mercury opposite Pluto, Pluto in Aquarius, it's the masses looking for that, the serious answer. And then there's Mercury in Leo, sort of like doing a little dance to sort of say, well, here's what I think about things. I said, that's me right now. Whatever. Anyhow, so it really suggests, maybe Mercury's already in his shadow. Well, Mercury is already in his shadow. Take care of what needs to be taken care of in the paperwork department now. All right, you're not going to wait until he gets out of his shadow on the other end of things, but take care of it now. This is a good time. We don't want to go too far. The moon is going to be in Virgo. There's some good stuff going on. By the way, if you are watching on the weekend of the 28th and 29th, moon in Leo, till Sunday morning Eastern time, it should be, it's okay Saturday night. Let's hope. Not a lot of energy in the moon yet, but it's in Leo. That's good. And all right, good to square Uranus at the end of there should be some excitement here and there. Anyways, beginning of the week, it's Virgo. There's not a lot happening this week, so some safe stuff in. And then Libra from Tuesday afternoon until Friday morning, earliest Friday morning. Again, more or less think about this as good time for taking care of stuff, active week, more active, I would say, midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, even than the sort of diligent, detail-oriented beginning of the week. A little bit more active, a little bit more sociable, more reaching out to others, communicating, connecting. If there's any, deals that have to get done, and it could be I'm not anticipating you have any real big major. I don't think you're going to be merging any corporations or any kind of thing like that. But if your lemonade stand and the cookie stand across the street, can get together and make a lemonade and cookie stand, that would probably be a nice idea. So whatever the thing that is that you have going on, if there's got any sort of thing that would require a little bit of cooperation with others, I would say Wednesday, Thursday, pretty good. But maybe the lemonade stand is about as serious as you ought to get. By the way, Zoom is great. When I give those extended, but it asks if I'm playing music and wants me to set up professional audio settings. I think that's funny. It thinks I'm singing. And it probably recognizes that it would need to change the audio settings if that were the case. Maybe make it better. Anyhow, the thing about it is this. The thing about it is this. Neptune stations to retrograde on Friday. And that does mean that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are colored with that Neptunian vibe. And that means things seem much better or much worse than they otherwise would. We are kind of in a bit of a fog. It is not really great for practical matters. What's likely to happen, you see, is that you and your lemonade stand and the person running the cookie stand across the street do decide that it would be a good idea for you to connect and bring your stands together, at least be on the same side of the street to increase business. And then you start thinking, and we're probably going to do really well with this. This is going to be great. So what we should do is start looking for a store that we can move into. And then, once we're there for a little bit, then what we'll do is we'll expand and we'll set out little satellite stores in other parts of the city. And we should be, and the next thing you know, you're on Shark Tank or something like that, trying to sell your idea, when in fact, all you've really done is sold, well, probably no lemonade. Well, I need to pause for a second here because the cat's meowing. I'm back. Yes, the cat wanted water. He only drinks from the sink. I'll pause it again when I hear the thud of him falling to earth off of the sink. It's kind of a big cat. Anyway, Neptune stations. You make too much out of something, or, alternatively, you make too little out of it. Everything becomes a disaster. Anything is possible, everything is hopeless. Those are the two extremes of Neptune stations that you really don't want to pay that much attention to. What this is great for is creativity. This is great for well, it's good for things like binging fantasy movies and stuff like that. It is good for, anything that is just, dreamy, listening to music, playing music, it's that kind of improvisational sort of thing, I don't know, get out a Lego set, not like when you build a model, but like the old-fashioned thing or something, whatever the thing is, just build something just to see what it looks like. Just play with the possibilities. Get out some paints, oil paints. Neptune rules oils. Get out some oil paints and make yourself a painting or something along those lines. Just it's drift. Just go for a walk where you don't even really know where you're going. Just walk around town or walk in the woods. Don't get lost. Don't get lost. Although a little Neptunian adventure probably isn't the end of the world. So maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not great for practical matters. Here's something that's happening during this period of time, and I'm going to have to say here from Thursday through, well, yes, I would say Thursday through Sunday. Venus, planet of love and relationship, very active. Now, it really, a lot of this happens on Friday because Venus will meet with Uranus on earliest Friday, which means that it affects primarily if you're in Europe and it's the holiday and this is happening a little bit later for you, later in the day, that is for you. It may be a Friday thing. Most of us will see it, I think, on Thursday because it happens early Friday here, East Coast time. What we have is this meeting of Venus, planet of love, relationship, values, and valuations, meeting with the revolutionary planet Uranus, who is about to go into Gemini on the 7th. And by the way, the video for that will be out next Wednesday or Thursday. Keep an eye peeled for the Uranus and Gemini video. Um, okay, so there we have it. What's likely to happen here? Well, this is in happening in Venus's home sign of Taurus, and it's happening at the very last degree, the 29th degree, and I think 52 minutes of Taurus. This is at the very, very end of the sign. We have this real powerful rallying of the Uranus energy with Venus at the very, very last minute of her home sign of Taurus. So this is a very powerful meeting, very, very powerful meeting. We are likely to get some very startling news. Let's call it startling news, having to do with Venusian things. I would be interested to see if we don't have some major artistic kind of thing going on, some sort of revelation of a new album. Do they still have albums? New something or other like that, like an album coming out. Um, uh, Particularly from a female artist, some sort of, special change going on. Those in relationships, or this could be a moment for big change. Uranus and Venus will not meet again in the sign of Taurus for another 77 years. So this is not going to happen until we're much older. Again, from now on, they'll be meeting in Gemini and so on and so forth. So, we would think that relationships at a hinge point might really be hinging at this point in time. What I think would be particularly interesting, among other things, is to see what happens to the financial markets with the combination of Venus meeting with Uranus in the very financial material sign of Taurus, at the very end, at the very strong point of Taurus, while Neptune is casting this glow of illusion over things. Be very, very interesting to see what happens in financial markets at the end of the week. So, yeah, finances, romance, creativity, all of these things are kind of bubbling with an air of uncertainty about them, right? This is not the certain outcome kind of situation by any stretch of the imagination. We really don't know what's going to happen. What we know is that there's a lot of activity bubbling around. That's what we get with this. And then Venus goes into Gemini, which, just FYI, is generally speaking good for socializing and just, it's a light kind of energy. It's good for the summertime. It's sort of a springtimey energy, actually. It brings a little spring into summer. It gives that sense of, doing those summer activities that, that, we still do them. We still do them. Here in my little town on Long Island, we have Friday nights. We have the downtown sounds. They have a different band playing every week, and you go down there and you meet with the Same group of people usually, or sometimes it gets changed up a little bit, and you just hang out, listen to some music type of thing. And that's very Venus in Gemini, very Venus in Gemini kind of activity. Just to give you an example, you do your own thing. Street fairs, for example, block parties, those of you that are more urban. So that kind of feel is what's going on with Venus and Gemini. Then Venus goes on, since she's got into Gemini, she's going to sextile Saturn and Neptune. That's over the weekend. I wouldn't imagine anything especially dramatic, but it is perhaps opening up a few little opportunities for things to flow a little bit over the course of the weekend. So be busy early in the week. Around midweek, start dialing back a little bit. And then as we get towards the end of the week into the weekend, it's a time to relax, let things go, not get too excited about things. Very, very, very bad time to have things appraised, though. At the end of the week, housing appraisals, getting the assessor to come out and see what your house is worth, bringing something to the pawn shop or to, not that, maybe, any investment decisions and stuff like that, anything from like Wednesday onwards, that Neptunian, Uranian, Venusian thing, not good for getting a realistic estimate. Could go too high, it could go too low, but either way, it's not going to be very realistic. Okay, Uranus video around mid. Now I've convinced myself the Uranus video has to come out really on Wednesday because otherwise it'll just be tinged by Neptune. And the cat's still drinking water.